I am. I'm totally blinded by the lights. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. If you're enjoying your day, thank you for joining us today for our Cloud App Security, for Microsoft Cloud App Security's overview session. Today, we're going to be telling you about how you can gain visibility, data control, and threat protection for your cloud apps with Microsoft Cloud App Security. Microsoft Cloud App Security, CAS for short, is Microsoft's entry into the Cloud Access Security Broker, or CASB, market. Before I get started, I would love to get a sense from the room, and I'm going to do this so I can see, how many folks are familiar with Cloud Access Security Brokers? Know what they are? How many folks have one purchased or deployed inside of your organizations? Either the Microsoft ones or someone else's. I don't judge. Okay, I judge a little. But no hands have gone up, so okay, so this is going to be fun. So when we think about Cloud App Security Brokers and when we think about Microsoft Cloud App Security, really what we want to think about and really what we, whoa, hello, come back. There we go. Try that again, shall we? All right, never mind. The technology's not working with me. Okay, so Cloud App Security and Cloud Access Security Brokers. Really the general idea behind a Cloud App Security Broker, a Cloud Access Security Broker, is as a way to provide you with visibility and with policy controls inside of SaaS application usage, software as a service application usage inside of your environment. And so what we're going to talk about today is Microsoft's offering, which is Cloud App Security, Microsoft CAS, inside of that CASB market. My name is Laura Hunter. I am a program manager inside of the Cloud and Enterprise Security team within Microsoft. My team is responsible for Cloud App Security, which we're going to be talking about today. My team is also responsible for several other tools inside of Microsoft's security suite, Azure Security Center, which we're going to have a session on tomorrow, as well as Advanced Threat Analytics, which we'll also have a session on tomorrow. So I hope you all come to all of those. I've been with Microsoft for about 8 years. I started with Microsoft's internal IT, so I got to actually deploy Microsoft's solutions and software for Microsoft as a company inside of Microsoft. And so it's a lot of fun to now be on the engineering group side, because now I get to have the conversations with Microsoft IT that I used to hate being on the receiving end of, which is to say I get to go to Microsoft IT and say, I have this really cool product, and have them go, have you ever talked to an enterprise customer? Like, do you have any idea? And this is why we dog food things internally. This is why we deploy things inside of Microsoft so that we can get real-time feedback, and so that we can get early feedback on products and on services like Cloud App Security before sending them out into the world. And so the CASB market, the Cloud Access Security Broker market, it's one of those technologies that if you read any of the industry publications, they're going to tell you that the CASB market is one of those markets that's poised to just really explode over the next 5 to 10 years. But before we talk about CASBs in particular and MCAS, we should take a step back and just think about the security challenges of managing an IT organization in this new and improved cloud world before we get really, really excited about and dive into the shiny object that is Cloud App Security, even though I'm a nerd and I really love shiny objects. So if we think about Cloud App Security, if we think about life before cloud and mobility, it was simpler, right? We had sanctioned applications that were installed on your devices, sitting on your premises. Access to your corporate resources required access to your corporate premises, access to your corporate network, and you had this really well-defined, really well-understood network perimeter called your firewall. And any threats or any attacks that came into your network really only had that one ingress and egress point, that any attacks coming into your network had to come into your network by way of that well-defined and that well-protected firewall. It had to come into your network by way of viruses, by way of malware, Depending on how badly you want me to date myself, I could say that they could come in, but that they historically came in by way of floppy disks. Or more recently, they came in by way of email messages, viruses and malware attached to email messages, or malicious websites that people would trick your employees into browsing to. So this was life before cloud and mobility. Then everything got complicated. This cloud thing came along. And working inside of Microsoft, we were obviously a pretty early forerunner, a pretty early adopter of cloud solutions because, well, we kind of built them. And so working inside of Microsoft and working inside of Microsoft IT, I got to have a lot of conversations about Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, let's get all of our stuff in the cloud. The identity management team inside of Microsoft is part of the security organization. We chain up to the Microsoft Chief Information Security Officer. And so we were the curmudgeons in the room. We were the grumpy people in the room who were talking about, yes, I hear you, cloud adoption, super important for Microsoft as a corporate entity because we want to go and sell this stuff. But we're still a Fortune 100 company, and we still have regulatory compliance requirements. We still have fiduciary responsibilities to our shareholders. And so let's talk about the security implications of moving to cloud services, even in the case where it happens to be the case that we own the cloud services. Microsoft is still my cloud service provider. Both from an organizational standpoint inside of Microsoft and also from just from a compliance standpoint. I am leveraging dozens of software as a service applications every single day as a part of my job. They happen to have names like Exchange Online and SharePoint Online and Office 365 and Dynamics. But from a standpoint of wanting visibility into these applications and being able to apply policy and have visibility into what Microsoft employees are doing inside of these SaaS applications, the challenges that Microsoft IT faces in providing that governance and providing that security are really not that much different from any of yours. They are not that much different from if it were the case that we were instead Contoso deploying Salesforce or Box or Dropbox. And that's the kind of change that something like a CASB, something like Cloud App Security, as well as other layered security solutions. You were probably just in the room for the Azure Information Protection session. These are the kinds of challenges that we are now facing. You know, the things that we hear are, well, we don't want to go to the cloud because we're losing our security controls. We're losing security controls, we're losing visibility, we're losing policy. And there are a lot of security solutions that are out on the market that allow companies, small, medium, and large, that allow companies to create these, to reassert this security posture, to reassert your security requirements in a cloud services world. We have telemetry based on just discussions that we have with different customers in our various customer advisory boards that the average reasonably sized enterprise organization has deployed something on the order of 18 different security solutions, and the guy in the front he's doing the thumbs up, which means he's got way more, and I believe you. And so you're deploying all of these different security solutions and all of these different tools in order to reassert the kind of control and the kind of policy application in the cloud that you had back when you were on-prem. Well, there's a couple of problems with that. You know, let's kind of break this down. So you've got 18 different portals that you got to look at. 18 different portals that your security operations team has to look at to be able to figure out the who, what, when, where, and why of your activities that are taking place in the cloud. What are the things that are wrong with that? Number one, it's expensive. You're cutting checks to 18 different vendors. It's probably inefficient because there's probably a Venn diagram that you could create with like 18 different circles, and Each of those 18 probably does a little bit of something, but not quite the other, and some of them are almost overlaps, but not quite, and so you need both, so it's expensive. It's also, in and of itself, just an intrinsic security risk, because you now have these potential gaps and these potential blind spots where is there a risk to your organization that is falling in between what is being covered by solution A versus solution H. And so this is the sort of thing where, in order to race to catch up with the security and policy and compliance requirements that are being driven by organizational needs to go to the cloud, because we want the cost savings and we want the efficiencies, there is a need to be able to take a holistic view of your security posture in the cloud. And so when Microsoft released Enterprise Mobility Suite, EMS, a couple of years ago, it really started as a way to do mobile device management, as well as a way to extend your on-premises identities, your on-premises authentication and authorization policies up into the cloud. We started with Intune. We started with Azure Active Directory, which is the authentication and the authorization backbone of things like Office 365. And this was a really great start. It was a really great start to be able to have that identity-driven cloud platform that enabled you to use one single identity platform to be able to access all of these different resources. It gave you that single point of administration. It gave you that single point of audit. But there was more that needed to be done. There was quite a bit more that needed to be done. And so over the course of the last 18 months to 2 years, Microsoft has made a number of investments in the security space. We've made investments around behavioral analytics. We've made investments in the CASB space, which is what we're talking about here. We've made investments in information protection, which you heard discussed in the previous hour. And really the goal for us is to be able to provide you with that holistic view and that holistic suite of security tools where you don't have the strange overlap, non-overlap of 18 different tools, where you can have that single point of administration or that single pane of glass to be able to administer your organization's cloud security posture in one place. Spoiler alert, we're not quite there yet. We're still working on it, but that's the vision, that's the goal. And so that's what we look at Enterprise Mobility Suite, Enterprise Mobility and Security today. We are extremely focused on the security aspects of cloud adoption. And so what our goals are for putting this platform together, we want our solution to be holistic. We're going to be going over a lot of these different solutions over the next 2 days. Our solution is still identity driven. We are still in our heart of hearts based on that Azure Active Directory identity platform and being able to leverage that central source of identity, of authentication and authorization as that control plane for accessing and for managing access to cloud applications and to cloud resources. We want to be innovative and we want to be intelligent. I would hope we want to be intelligent. But we certainly want to be innovative because attackers are changing their tactics and evolving their tactics every single day. And if our attackers are evolving, we need to evolve. We need to evolve with them, and we need to be able to provide new and updated protections, both for ourselves as a Fortune 100, as well as for our customers who are relying on us for our productivity and for our productivity solutions. And part of that is we need our solutions to not only be smart, to not only be intelligent, but we need them to be learning solutions. And so Microsoft has invested an incredible amount into what we call the Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Anytime you hear the word security graph, what it really means, it's kind of a nice marketing way of saying that we have a lot of security signals We have a lot of security data coming into Microsoft by way of us running the business of being Microsoft. We are Azure. We are this massive cloud service provider. We have all of these different customers who are running their businesses inside of Azure. And we have telemetry and audit data into the behaviors that are taking place across Azure. We run Office 365. We run this massive online productivity and collaboration suite. We have hundreds of thousands of customers who are doing their business in Office 365. We have intelligence and security and audit data that comes to us by way of Office 365. Microsoft Account, formerly Windows Live, one of the largest consumer identity providers in the world. We have a lot of security data that comes to us by way of Live, by way of Microsoft Account. And really our goal is to be able to take that security graph, which again is just a culmination of all these different security signals that come to us, and we want to be able to learn from it, and we want to be able to apply those learnings to our products and solutions that we can then turn around and offer back as a benefit to you. If the digital crimes unit, in consultation with a customer either pre-breach or post-breach, discovers the presence of a new botnet, discovers the presence of a new section of the dark web that we didn't know was there before, well, guess what? We're going to learn from that. We're going to take that learning and we're going to package it, and we're going to apply it to our cloud services, so that you as customers can automatically receive the updated benefit from that. You don't have to go and find the new botnet. We found it for you. And so that's kind of cool stuff. And so when we acquired the company Adallom, which was the technological underpinning for Cloud App Security, the reason that we did so is because when we looked across the whole of the enterprise mobility and security suite, when we looked at the identity management component, when we looked at the behavioral analytics, the mobile device management, the information protection, what we really decided was, in order for this to be a complete solution, we really had to bring a cloud access broker to the table. And the reason we had to do that is because if you look at everything sort of off to the right and not Cloud App Security, a lot of this, at least in its earliest beginnings, was very Microsoft focused. A lot of our security security postures were very much focused around, you are using Office 365, you are using Azure Active Directory, and if you are in that sort of very homogeneous environment, then we already had solutions that could meet your needs. We're not the only players in the world, and it takes a certain amount of corporate humility to admit that. But in order for us to provide the best level of security and the best benefit to folks like you, to our customers, as well as just to the internet as a whole, we realized that we needed to create solutions, we needed to apply solutions that would provide security not just for Microsoft solutions, but in a cross-cloud, cross-vendor capacity. Cloud App Security allows you to gain visibility into, to be able to apply policy against not just Microsoft SaaS applications, but an entire range of SaaS applications. And we'll get into what that database looks like in just a moment. These are some of my favorite statistics, again, because I used to be a security person, used to sit inside of a security organization inside of Microsoft IT, which is 73% of enterprises indicate security as a top blocker for adopting SaaS applications. I actually really like the one on the right, which is 80% of employees admit to using non-approved SaaS apps in their job. Key phrase there being admit to. I think if you went to the rest of them, it would be way higher than 80%, and 80% is already pretty high. The reason this is interesting to me, now that I've lived both in the security practitioner as well as the product engineering side of the world, the reason this is so interesting to me is that I've already said I used to be the grumpy curmudgeon at the table. I used to be the grumpy curmudgeon sitting across from the Office 365 product group saying, no, I don't want to deploy your sneaky cloud service, because it has these security gaps that I don't want to deploy the service until you've met these security gaps. And as a customer, as a representative of Microsoft's internal security organization, that was the right thing for me to say. Asterisk, and here's the asterisk, which is now that we have, we as an industry, we as an IT industry, as a cloud industry have evolved to the point that SaaS application adoption is so easy. You don't need to be a technical person to adopt a SaaS application. Sometimes you don't even actually need a credit card. You need to go out to Box.com or Dropbox.com or Contoso.com and sign up for an account, and 5 minutes later, you are sharing files out on the internet. And so the sort of paradoxical effect that comes from security folks like us who are completely well-intentionedly saying, no, we don't want to adopt the cloud because security, we are running the risk of driving our employees to say, well, I just want to get my job done. I'm going to go put my data out in this other application that you don't know I'm doing it. You can't stop me from doing it unless you are amazingly draconian with your firewalls. And so we've sort of created this paradoxical effect where if we try to hold on too tight, for all the right reasons, but if we try to hold on too tight, we may actually find ourselves reducing our organization's security posture rather than increasing it. And so when we look at something like a CASB, something like Cloud App Security, one of the real advantages that it gives is that it allows you to gain visibility into what's already taking place inside of your network, what may already be taking place inside of your network. And so what CAS does for us, what MCAS does for us is that it's kind of three-tiered. It allows us to get visibility into the current state of SaaS application usage inside of your network. It allows you to start creating policy and formulating policy around the shape of your cloud infrastructure and what your cloud environment looks like. But first you got to figure out what it is. Once you figure out what it is, then you can start shaping it. It's like ripping off the Band-Aid. You got to start from somewhere. And then the other sort of tier that we work from, the other sort of pillar that we work from is threat detection. Because it's absolutely the case that the threats that we face and the risks that cloud adoption brings to the table are different. They are different than the risks that we face dealing with on-prem infrastructure. The scope and the scale and the breadth of attacks that can come against a random cloud service where you didn't know your data was to begin with, that's a very different risk posture than trying to deal with that file server that's sitting on your premises. And so these are the visibility, the control, the threat detection. These are the pillars of Cloud App Security. I'm going to go into a demo in a couple of minutes. I'm also just going to talk to you about the architecture of how CAS works, but just as sort of a sneak peek of that, I'm going to call out that when we design CAS, which is to say when we made the decision to acquire Adallom, we made a very specific decision, and the decision that we made is that we wanted to create an easy way for organizations to get some amount of visibility and some amount of policy and control inside of their networks in almost a one-click fashion, and you're going to see that in just a moment. The reason I bring that up is it's a little bit different from other tools, other services in this space that are perhaps a lot more locked down, although that may actually not be the case given some stuff I'm going to demo for you at the end, some really cool advances that I get to show you probably for the first time. You probably haven't seen these before, but there are other tools in this space that are much more interested in locking down, or at least in starting at locking down, than in starting at visibility. You will find other tools in this space where the first line of the instruction manual is, go deploy this agent across every device in your network so that we can get 100% coverage of every possible activity that's taking place. From a security standpoint, again, this sounds really good, and from a very starting from a very well-intentioned place, we might want to start there. But people have their own devices. People bring their own phones. People bring their own tablets. They may or may not be enrolling these devices in your MDM solution, and so it may not be technically feasible to start from that very draconian, very locked down place of throw this agent out there everywhere so that you can immediately lock down what people are accessing. CAS as a solution, it's kind of a crawl, walk, run sort of thing. We want to start very lightweight, very easy to adopt, very unobtrusive to the, especially to your end users. We want to be able to give you, the IT organization, the security organization, visibility to determine what is the current state of my network before I start changing stuff. And so when we talk to security organizations, when we talk to CISOs, some of the questions that we hear a lot, that we hear over and over again, what are the kinds of questions that people want to have answered about their SaaS application, about their organization's SaaS application portfolio? Let's start with the obvious one. What is the current shape of my organization's SaaS application usage? And there are some CISOs that I've talked to where I'll ask them, how many SaaS applications has your organization adopted? And they will say Office 365 and OneDrive for Business, because I have the PO, and that's what I signed for, and that's what I paid for, and that's what's in use on my network today. I try really hard not to immediately respond with, really? Like, are you a betting person? Do you want to go to Vegas? Do you want to try this out? And so the first thing that you need to be able to figure out is, what is the actual shape of cloud adoption and of cloud usage in your network? Once you are able to answer that, so what applications are in use, you then want to be able to figure out what is the extent to which data is leaving my network. And when I say leaving my network, I'm not talking about a hack, I'm not talking about a breach, I'm talking about employees using cloud services, whether you've sanctioned them or not, to be able to do their jobs, to be able to share documents, to be able to collaborate with their coworkers, to be able to collaborate with their business partners. And the reason I stress that is, they may not be doing it the way you want them to do it, but 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, they're not doing it to be malicious. They're doing it because they want to get their jobs done, and because maybe they don't have the tools within the corporate approved infrastructure to get their jobs done, so they went and found another way to do it. Well, okay, great, they're doing that. We are where we are. Let's now figure out the extent to which data is leaving my network. How many files that originated on my corporate network are currently being shared in a cloud storage service like OneDrive, like Dropbox, like Box? How many of my files are currently shared in one of these applications using a public link? Using one of those links where all you have to do is click on the link, no username, no password, no auth. You just click through and you get the file. Every cloud storage service on the planet offers this service, offers this capability. How many of my organization's files currently exist in this state? How many people would love to be able to answer that today? If your hand isn't going up, you're lying. You just are. Everyone wants to be able to answer this question today. And so that's kind of the security standpoint, the security aspect of it. But there's also just this idea of, from a financial aspect, I want to understand what resources and what services and what applications have been deployed throughout my organization. What do people need to do their jobs? What services am I, as my company's IT service provider, what services am I not providing? It takes a bit of humility to ask that question, but it can be so valuable. Your employees may have needs that you don't know about. And by being able to answer that question of what is in use today, you're not only providing better security, you're actually providing, or at least paving the road to provide, a better experience for your employees. You know the old story where there's the knob between security and usability, and if you turn one up, you have to turn the other one down. I actually subscribe to the theory that we should be able to find solutions that don't have that binary knob, that we should be able to find solutions where the rising tide raises all boats. And I think one of the benefits of Cloud App Security is that it allows you to get this visibility into your company's SaaS application usage in a way that not only increases your security posture, although we spend a lot of time talking about your security posture, it also just makes you a more effective IT organization. And so, when we think about CAS as an application, CAS as a service, the functionality that it offers, the 4 pillars that it offers are around cloud discovery, which we've kind of already talked about, information protection. How many folks were in the Azure Information Protection session that was right before? So Azure Information Protection is another Microsoft Cloud service. It is the outgrowth of Azure RMS combined with some recent acquisitions that allows you to perform data classification of your various files and your various data assets inside the cloud. You can classify these items as confidential, as highly confidential, as any sort of nomenclature that meets the needs of your business. This data tagging and these tags inside of Azure Information Protection are already usable by Microsoft Cloud properties like Exchange Online, like SharePoint Online. And Microsoft Cloud properties can interact with these data classification labels inside of Azure Information Protection. Cloud App Security, by way of our integration with various third-party SaaS applications, can take those Azure IP classification labels, and it can allow you to create policy and reporting and alerting of Azure IP tagged data files that are residing in someone else's cloud. What do I mean by that? Think of a report, think of an alert that will let you know anytime a file that has been tagged confidential by Azure IP has been uploaded to a non-sanctioned SaaS application. So I'm going to sanction OneDrive, I'm going to sanction Salesforce, and I'm going to sanction Box. But I'm not going to sanction, I don't know, GitHub, making up an example. Send me an alert that lets me know anytime a confidential file has been uploaded to a non-sanctioned application. Take it one step further. Prevent that file from being uploaded to begin with, or depending on the integration capabilities that we have with the individual SaaS application, it could be the case that the file gets uploaded, but then within a matter of seconds to minutes, it has been quarantined, sharing has been disabled, an email has gone off to the owner of the file as well as to your security administrator, basically saying an action has taken place, an action has occurred that is outside of our policy. And we're able to apply this policy not just to Microsoft applications, but also to third-party SaaS applications. Threat detection, another pillar, as we've kind of already talked about. The threat profile and the risk profile for your organization as you adopt SaaS applications is ever growing and ever changing. Maybe there's a new cool SaaS application that you didn't know was there, and next thing you know, 100 people in your organization are using it. Cloud App Security can tell you this. If you have evidence that one of your user accounts' passwords has been compromised using something like Advanced Threat Analytics, which I'm going to be demoing to you tomorrow. If you have evidence that a user has had their account spearphished and has had their password compromised, go show me everything they've done in my list of sanctioned SaaS applications in the last 24 hours since we received evidence that their account has been spearphished. Flip it around. If Richard@contoso.com typically uploads and downloads 5 megs of data a day from Salesforce, but but today he downloaded a gig. Maybe that itself becomes the trigger and becomes the alerting mechanism, again, back to the security graph, maybe that becomes the signal to you that there is something wrong with Richard's account. This is the kind of threat detection that that CAS will bring to you. It can bring you detection about anomalous activity. It can bring within your individual users. It can also tell you about anomalous activity being performed against those SaaS applications. And then in-session control, which is kind of a new piece that hopefully, if we have time by the end, I'll give you a demo of that. Discovery. How's it work? Shadow IT Discovery. This right here. This is the most important slide in this deck, as far as I'm concerned. There is inside of the CAS portal, and I'll show that to you in just a second. There is the capability to upload a data file, a log file from your network security appliances, from your border router, from your border firewall, from your proxy server. We support a gajillion standard industry devices in terms of their log format. If you give us one that's from a device that we don't understand, it gets shunted into a special queue called Anon, go look at this and figure it out, so that we can go and parse this log format. But again, there's a gajillion standard. We support Blue Coat, all the Ciscos and the Junipers and all of those. You can perform either a one-time upload or an automatic upload. For a one-time upload of your firewall, of your proxy, of your border log files, you can upload up to 1 gig in size. For ongoing uploads, they're not going to get that big anyway, because you're going to be doing them on a regular basis, and we're just going to take the deltas. But for that one-time upload, you can take the log file from one of your border devices, one of your border routers, one of your proxy devices, upload it into the CAS console. Depending on the size of the file, I will tell you, if you upload a 1 gig file, you're probably going to want to go to lunch or something. But you're going to come back, and Cloud App Security is going to give you a report after having parsed and reasoned over that firewall of every SaaS application that is in use on your network out of the database of SaaS applications that we recognize. That database currently has 13,000 applications in it and is growing pretty much every day. This is some of the capability that you get by way of buying into Cloud App Security. We will show you what users are accessing things, who your top talkers are, the total amount of data up, the total amount of data down. The reason why I say this is the most important slide that I'm going to show you today is because Cloud App Security as a product is built into EMS E5 licensing. This was announced as of Ignite a couple of months ago. It can also be purchased as a standalone service if you're not yet an EMS customer. It also has a free 90-day trial. And the reason this is the most important thing for you is even if you don't have EMS, even if you're not interested in this CAS thing, go sign up for a 90-day trial, upload one of your log files, wait 2 hours for the cooking time to run, come back and get this report. As a security person, it will hurt me if you don't do this, because there is no reason not to. Get your report, and you get to have visibility into what is the current state of my network. And the reason I know there are no Microsoft salespeople in the room is because no one rushed the stage and tackled me because I just said that. I'm a security person. I want people to be secure. And so the sorts of things we're going to show you are what is in use on your network? What are the risk scores associated with these different applications that are in use today? You know what? I'm just going to show it to you because I've been talking for a while. And slides are kind of boring, and this is way cooler if I can just show it to you. Okay. So I'm going to go to my Discovery dashboard. This is the CAS portal. This is the Cloud App Security portal. And so this is the result of a couple of different. This is a demo environment. So you're seeing a couple of different ongoing uploads of cloud activity within this fictitious Contoso organization. And you can see we've discovered 551 apps. We've got 1,200 users coming in from 2,500-ish IP addresses with a total up-down of about 5.7 gig. I have already sanctioned a number of applications inside of my organization, which is to say I've already marked these various applications as being authorized for use. So I'm seeing a lot of green because I'm seeing a lot of use of applications I've already sanctioned. I'm seeing a couple I haven't sanctioned. I'm seeing a couple that I haven't necessarily reasoned over yet. This is the cool part. Every application that we find, and I mentioned we have a database that we maintain that currently has over 13,000 applications. Every application that we find, you can drill into and you can see a report of, so here's like a detailed report of Microsoft OneDrive for Business, activity over time, total active users. If I scroll down, you'll see like top talkers. But what you will also see, go along, please work? Yay, that's what I wanted. So what you can see is this scoring algorithm that we maintain for each of our SaaS applications inside of this database. Please don't read anything into the fact that OneDrive for Business gets a 10 out of 10 and is green. It just happens to be a really good application. But we report on things like, is this a reputable company? Can we, are they traded on the stock exchanges? What is their reported name, their reported contact address? Do they have a published privacy policy? And so we also look for different security characteristics. Do they maintain an audit trail? Do they maintain valid certificate names? Do they enforce encryption at rest, encryption in flight? Have they advertised compliance with various alphabet soup algorithms? Are they HIPAA compliant? Are they ITAR compliant? Yes, yes, no, no, no. Are they FISMA? Yes, yes, no, no, no. And you get this information for every application that we recognize inside of your log files. Imagine if you went and had to dig all this up yourself. Imagine if you could do it in 10 minutes per application. You can't, but let's pretend for sake of easy math. If we detected 500 applications, or even 100 applications inside of that log file, that's a whole lot of legwork you guys would have to do that you don't have to do because we did it for you. If you are a company that, if you are an ISV, if you work for a company that creates cloud application software, and you see yourself in this list, and you look on that list and you say, that's not right. You're saying we're not FISMA, but we are. There's a little link there's a little link that allows you to request a new review or provide supporting information, provide supporting documentation. So that's just awesome, and as a geek, that makes me happy. I can also see a list of the different IP addresses, top 100 IP addresses in terms of top talkers. So I can see my list of IP addresses. The joys of running a demo using a cloud service. You can't help but rely on Conference Center Wi-Fi. Thank you for bearing with me. I can also see information about the user accounts and the usernames that have been sent up to me using these log files. If your firewalls don't record username information, obviously we won't have this. Another question that I get commonly at this screen is, what about privacy? What about obfuscation? What about tokenization? There is an item on our very near-term backlog, I'm hoping to see it within the next few months, that will allow me to tokenize these different usernames so that anyone who logs into this portal isn't going to be able to see all of these usernames. They'll see just an obfuscated list of it, and then if you need to actually go and look up one particular username for investigative or forensic purposes, there's a different part of the UI that you'll have to go into, and you can do a forward or a reverse lookup, but it's not just sitting there blah right in your face. So like that's a question that I get a lot. That is not there in the service today, but it is something that is available. Every one of these items that you see, anything that's hyperlinked is clickable. You can drill down. So I'm looking at Emerson, and I'm seeing that Emerson is using 30 apps. Emerson is using one app that I've classified as risky. So you saw that that compliance report where OneDrive for Business was a 10 out of 10. Well, if you scroll down far enough, you're going to find some 4 out of 10s. You're going to find some 2 out of 10s. And Emerson is using one of those. And how many transactions, how many megs going up and down. I can also, while I'm in here, let's say that I'm doing a specific investigation regarding Emerson's account. Either he's recently left the organization, he's about to be laid off, because we know as IT people, we sometimes get that information before the rest of the world. And we are asked by our organizations to preemptively protect our organization's assets from the people who are being walked out the door. I have the option to, and you'll forgive me, it's a little hard to crane my neck here, but there is an option within this screen to, okay, I've searched for this account, I've found this object that is useful to me, that is of interest to me, let me craft a policy on the basis of this drill down, and that policy could be something like, look for any files that Emerson has shared publicly and quarantine them. Look for any files that Emerson has shared publicly and turn off that sharing. It could be something far less draconian than that. It could be like if this is just something where Emerson reported that he thinks maybe he clicked on a spear phishing link and he went and he immediately reset his password because he's a good corporate citizen, but he's maybe a little bit worried. I can set reporting or anomalous activity policies from within this section. So I can say, show me anomalous activity specific to Emerson's account. There's a broader reporting screen that will show you all activity that Cloud App Security is reporting on, but you can, if it is interesting to you as part of investigation, as part of forensics, you can create a specific alert that can say things like, show me anomalous activity for this account. Show me if this account is trying to download is showing unusual download activity, is showing impossible travel scenarios, logged in from San Francisco and Tel Aviv within the space of 5 minutes. You know, these are the sort of things that Cloud App Security will show to you, and these things will appear on this alerts tab. And so this shows you just the different alerts, the different alerts that have been raised by Cloud App Security within this environment over the past several. And like any cloud service, these different alerts, they can go to an email address, they can go to a pager. We have integration points using RESTful APIs. Most of what you see in the portal can be done programmatically within a RESTful API. Our goal is all, but I'm not going to tell you all because you're going to find the thing that we haven't gotten to yet, and I don't want to be a liar. Most of the activity that you see inside of this portal can be executed on with a RESTful API. So depending on your existing security infrastructure, depending on the existing tooling that you're using, maybe you have a SIEM that's on-prem, maybe you have a system orchestrator that's an existing system orchestrator or a managed security service, you can craft integrations such as, if I see an alert that's fired inside of CAS that meets this, and that criteria, fire something off to my system orchestrator and have it do its thing. Fire off a runbook, disable the user account, block a port. You know, these are the sorts of things that they're not necessarily out of the box. They don't necessarily give you just like one-click access inside the portal, because we kind of couldn't, because everyone's security infrastructure is a little different. So we didn't necessarily, we decided to opt for building integration points that you can then build into your own environment, rather than giving you like a one-click, tell your firewall to block this port. Like, that sounds really nice, but we don't know what firewall you use. It could be one of, 11 billion different kinds of firewalls. And so that's pretty much our goal with the alerting piece. Where is the thing I wanted to show you? So we mentioned, I'd mentioned integration with Azure Information Protection, and Azure Information Protection, excuse me, data classification. Cloud App Security also has its own built-in DLP engine that predated Azure Information Protection integration. And so that is, that's already in place. Where is the piece I wanted to show you? Give me just 1 second. Policies. Thank you for bearing with me. It's a little difficult to crane my neck all the way over. Activity log. So this is showing you the activity log, which just shows you a view of all of the different activities that are taking place that CAS has been able to detect. This level of rich integration is not available across all SaaS applications. So I mentioned we have 13,000 applications in our discovery database. We have a much smaller list that has this level of deep application integration attached to it. We target the big ones: Salesforce, Box, Dropbox, AWS, Okta, and a couple of more that I always forget. But what this allows you to do is this gives you API level integration where you can authorize Cloud App Security, the Cloud App Security service, against your corporate instance of one of these applications, and it does that using the prototypical OAuth authorization path. And what that deep application integration will give you is that it will allow you to get detailed granular log information from these connected applications. It will also allow you to, pursuant to the API capabilities of the third-party vendor, because we're kind of at their mercy, it will also allow you to create those policies I alluded to earlier that allow you to take remediation steps. So if I detect that a file meeting this criteria has had this action taken against it, well, CAS is going to pick up on that, not quite mathematically instantaneously, but really, really fast, depending on the performance characteristics of the connected API. CAS will be able to detect and will be able to respond to that. Will be able to respond to that event. If I see that a confidential file has been shared with a public link, I'm going to turn off sharing. If I see that a confidential file has been shared to someone in a security group that I didn't want them being shared with, maybe I have all of my external vendors in a single security group inside of Azure Active Directory, and I have a policy that says anything that is that is top secret or highly confidential cannot be shared with my vendors. Well, if I see something that was shared with one of these vendors, I can remove them as a collaborator. I can put the file into quarantine so that the user still has access to it, but it's not shared. It's not shared with third parties. It's not shared with other folks. Okay, bear with me for just 1 second here. I'm gonna duplicate my screen so that I can give you a better demo. I can see the thing in front of me. I'm so much happier now. Oh my goodness, thank you for that. And you guys can still see that out there. Okay, so we went to our Cloud App Discovery dashboard. We've already been over that. I wanted to show you control policies. Let's see now. Yes, so these are the different policies that I have in place that I've defined inside of Cloud App Security, and you can see things like files shared with an unauthorized email domain. I have a template, and this is a policy that's actually built into the cloud service, which is new popular app. So I mentioned that you can do a one-time upload of your firewall log files. You can also do ongoing uploads so that we can analyze activity over time. One of the things that we look for is a new SaaS application that is starting to be in popular use on your network. 50 people are using this, and they weren't using it last week. Maybe you want to go look into that. This is also what allows us to report on anomalous behavior. I used to upload and download 5 megs from Salesforce a day. Now I'm uploading a gig. Maybe you want to go and have a chat with Laura and see what's going on. So this one's kind of interesting and kind of shows you just sort of the power and some of the very granular capabilities that you get with these policies and with these alerts. So I've created a policy that using CAS's built-in DLP engine, I want to see publicly shared files containing credit card info. And so I have this ongoing. I have this policy that will fire every time I see a file that violates this policy. Again, using that rich API integration with those applications who allow it. And in this case, by drilling into this policy, I can see here are the list of files that currently match this policy, i.e. that are currently a violation of this policy. And what I can do for both of these is I can start drilling into different information about these policy violations so that I can do some due diligence and so that I can do some investigation. So I'm going to look at test file for DLP test.docx. I apologize that it doesn't quite pass the squint test, so I'll just tell you what I'm doing here. When I drill into this file, I get to see things like who is the owner of the file, Valentin.Williams@Contoso. I get to see the original URL of the file. When was it created? When was it last modified? What's the size? Which policy did it fail to make it show up in my investigation UI? The other thing that I can see in the case of a file sharing service. This file appears in OneDrive for Business. I can see the hierarchy. I can see where it is stored inside of ODB. So I can see that this file is sitting inside the DLP project test file shared with everyone folder. Now, there's no secret sauce here. I'm just applying human intelligence to this. I'm looking at this file saying, this looks like someone on the DLP team is trying something out. So already my warning bells are not going off quite as high as they could have been otherwise. I also get to see, I have this column that shows me the content matches. And so what I can see from here is I can see a parse out or a grep of the content inside the file that is violating my policy. So in this case, I'm not actually showing the credit card information on a screen because we're not that foolish. So I'm seeing all of that obfuscated out, but I'm seeing the contextual information. I'm seeing the text surrounding. The credit card data. And so what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a credit card number that belongs to Alfred Hitchcock. I'm seeing a credit card file that belongs to Stanley Kubrick. I'm seeing a credit card file that belongs to Frank Capra. This is a test file. I'm okay with this. I'm going to stand down. If anything, I'm happy to see this because it tells me that my DLP is working. So if anything, I'm sort of happy to see this. But now let's look at this other one. Let's look at this payment schedule and details. And this is an Excel spreadsheet sitting in OneDrive for Business. It's owned by this woman named Phyllis Schaubel. Maybe at this point I open up Active Directory and I say, she's a salesperson. She's a salesperson for some of my major accounts. I again go into View the Hierarchy, and I see that it's sitting in my Customers folder, sitting in the ECMEL Corp folder. Not feeling good about that. I see two matches, and I'm seeing credit card payment info. Yeah, just applying human intelligence to this. I'm gonna trigger this as something that my SecOps team wants to go and deal with. I can either, depending on my existing security operations processes, I can trigger existing processes, which is to say I can call Phyllis and say what the heck is going on. Or if this file is that concerning to me, I have options to auto-remediate. I can make the file private. I can put it into user quarantine, which means that Phyllis still has access to it, but it's not accessible to other people. It's not shareable with other people. And the reason that we give you all these different options is that we don't want to jump to the conclusion that Phyllis is a hacker. She's probably not. She probably didn't even do this maliciously. She may not have even realized that she did it. She may have fat-fingered a button somewhere. This is all about giving you visibility into the state of your environment so that you can choose the right response to take. Now, there are all kinds of automated responses that you can take. You could craft a policy. So this policy that you're seeing here, this is basically a report-only policy. This is saying, show me the things that are in violation, but don't do anything. You could create policies that take automatic action, that do automatic remediation. If I find credit card information, immediately slap that file into quarantine, immediately mark it private, send an email to security, send an email to the user. This gets down to, your organization's security posture. This gets down to, this is where we start getting into the integration with Azure Information Protection. You can see where you can start getting super granular. If I see a file that is marked highly confidential and triggers a check for credit card information and is publicly shareable, do this, do this, do this, do that. Anyone come from like on-prem Active Directory kind of worlds? Anyone remember Active Directory group policy? Group policy was really great because it was this security mechanism that was built into Active Directory, and it had something like 10,000 different knobs that it could switch. Some of them were security related, some of them were user experience related. Point being, you could get really persnickety with group policy. Like you could go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs with group policy. And sometimes that was good and sometimes that was bad. Sometimes you created this massive Gordian knot of interwoven policies such that your users couldn't actually figure out how to log in. I am suggesting you don't do that. I am suggesting that you start, crawl, walk, run. Start with visibility. Do that one-time upload. Maybe configure some automated uploads if you decide you want to buy into the product. Get visibility into what you are seeing inside of your organization. Then start firing some alerts. Maybe you want to target only administrative users. Maybe you don't. Maybe you only care about impossible travel scenarios, or maybe you only care about logging in from previously unknown networks if it's a user admin. Maybe if it's an administrator, maybe that's why you care about it. Maybe you can start from there. The last thing I want to show you is, and this is something that we are demoing that we are showing for the first time. We showed it for the first time at Ignite, and you guys get to see it at this roadshow, which is something that we call the in-session proxy. And what I would like to do is go back to my other view. Thank you for tolerating the screen switches, by the way. It was so much easier to do a demo with the screen in front of me rather than craning off that way. So the other thing I would like to show you is in-session control. And in-session control is interesting to us because Azure Active Directory today already has certain capabilities around conditional access. It allows you to do things like only allow authentication to Office 365 from the internet if the person has 2FA'd, has used strong authentication, or if the person is coming in from a managed device. What in-session control does, in-session control allows us to take those capabilities and, number one, extend them out to third-party applications. We're starting with Salesforce, and so the demo you're about to see is with Salesforce. But it also allows us to make even more granular decisions and even more granular enforcements, because the current state of conditional access is a little bit binary. If the user has not used strong authentication, deny access. Just shut them off at the gate. They don't even get a token. That may not actually be what you want. You may, from a usability standpoint, you may want to make different decisions. You may want to make decisions based on more granular bits of information. And so what we provide is that it's this advanced session broker that allows us to make decisions on the basis of a lot of different criteria. So take this use case. This is the use case that I call, are you kidding me? Use case, which is I have a user who wants to download a report from CRM. The user in question is an admin of the CRM software. They are a Salesforce admin. Richard is a CRM admin. They've made this request from a Tor node. They've made this request from an IP address that we have high confidence, based on our security graph, is a botnet. Also, this account has had multiple failed login attempts in the last few minutes. This is an unmanaged device that we haven't seen before. Did I mention he's a CRM admin? And he's trying to create a report of my entire list of CRM customers. No, my mother did not raise a fool. I want to block this case. Now let's look at a different case. Let's even say it's the same user. Let's even say it's still Richard. Richard wants to view his email. He's not an admin he's not an admin in O365. He was a Salesforce admin. He's not an O365 admin. He's logging in from France, which, okay, he doesn't do that very often, but he's done it before. Like maybe he's got family and he goes there a couple of times a year. Like I have consistent information from these firewall logs that I've been building over time that the behavioral profile for Richard says it's not an everyday occurrence, but it's not completely off the charts ludicrous. It's a compliant device. He's trying to access his email. It's Office 365. This is a sanctioned application for me. And the email message itself, the data is not sensitive. The email message itself is not flagged highly confidential. Okay, I'm going to allow this. I want to be able to allow this. And so what we want to be able to do, and what we're doing with in-session control, is to be able to create these much more granular decision points. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a video that we created of in-session control. And the reason it's a video, I don't want to be accused of lip syncing, so I'm just going to tell you, I am lip syncing, because this is something that is still very much under development for us. It is coming soon, but it is still under development for us. So what you are seeing here, this is a Windows 10. This is a Windows 10 device. It's a single device. I have two browsers running on that single device. And the reason I have two browsers is to basically emulate the behavior of two different users. And so on the left-hand side, I have Edge. On the right-hand side, I have Internet Explorer. In both browser windows, I'm going to browse to the same URL. I'm going to browse to my Salesforce client inside of both browsers. There is no secret sauce here. This is, www. whatever my tenant name is .salesforce.com. No secret sauce here. I'm redirected to Azure Active Directory because I've integrated Salesforce with Azure AD for my authentication. And so in both cases, I'm redirected to Azure Active Directory. I'm authenticating as the same user. I am Richard at testadoutlook.com. In both cases, same user, two different browsers. Here's where it gets different. When I authenticate in the Edge case, and I put in my super secret password, capital PASSW @OR, that password. In both cases, I am prompted for a certificate. And the reason that we're doing this is we want to emulate the behavior of a managed device versus an unmanaged device. And in this case, we're using Azure AD's device registration service, which plumbs a cert down to any device that enrolls in the DRS service. You could envision this being the cert that gets plumbed to the device by way of a mobile device management software. So I see in both cases, I am asking the device to authenticate itself. Richard has authenticated, so the user has authenticated. Now I want the device to authenticate. In the left-hand case, in the Edge case, I'm going to click OK. I'm going to submit this certificate. In the Internet Explorer case, I'm going to click Cancel. I'm not going to submit that certificate. I am not going to authenticate the device. Net effect, Edge thinks that I am an authenticated user on a managed device. Internet Explorer thinks that I am still an authenticated user, but on an unmanaged device. And so I say, OK, I accept the certificate, I submit the certificate in the Edge case. And then in the Internet Explorer case, I hit cancel. I do not submit the certificate. So managed device, unmanaged device. The thing to notice is that from a user experience perspective, both cases still authenticated me into Salesforce. I'm sitting in Salesforce. It's the same URL, it's the same UX, it's the same interface. This isn't a sandbox. I didn't sandbox the unmanaged device. I still allowed the unmanaged device to access Salesforce. Because from a risk management, from a policy standpoint, I decided I wanted to do that. I'm going to go to my list of files. I have a confidential file and a non-confidential file. On my managed device, I'm going to click that non-confidential file. It's going to download to my device. I'm going to open it. Word's going to pop. There is my non-confidential file. I close it. I go to my confidential file. I download. I save it. I open it. And there's my confidential file sitting on my managed device. That looks like a pretty scary file. That's got a lot of people's names and social security numbers. That's kind of a scary file. But I'm on a managed device. So from a policy standpoint, I have allowed this to happen. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing from the IE browser, which is appearing unmanaged. I open the non-confidential file. Poof, it opens. No change, no fuss, no muss. I try to open the confidential file, and remember, this is the unmanaged device. Configurable message. Sorry, not compliant with organizational policy. Please contact blah, 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 or come in from a managed device. That shows up in the pop-up. It also shows up in just a downloaded text file. Basically, this happens by way of CAS becomes a SAML proxy. CAS becomes a reverse proxy, and you can apply policies and create policies, again, using that deep API integration, and you get to now create a new type of policy that effectively says, send requests that meet whatever set of criteria through the proxy, as opposed to just bypass the proxy. So we've seen and we spent a lot of time on CAS as a reporting mechanism, as a visibility mechanism, as a policy and a remediation mechanism. This now moves CAS one step forward to being proactive security, proactive control. It actually moves us into the reverse proxy space. And you can see in the activity log, in the CAS proxy, and again, I apologize for the squint test, but you can see two different login attempts, same user, same app, same IP address. One is showing the icon that indicates a managed device, the other is not. And one is showing violated policy, send through proxy, the other is not. So this is super cool. I'm super excited about this. It is something that we are actively working on. It is coming soon, which in PM terms means I'm not, adhering to any dates, because then someone really will run up to the stage and punch me with something. But it is coming soon. We are actively working on it. We are all super excited about it. And I wanted you guys to, the folks at Ignite and the folks at the Tech Summit Roadshows, I wanted you guys to be the first ones to see it, because I think this is awesome. It's just so cool. And we got a couple of minutes left, so I can take some questions now, or I will be at the Ask the Experts. That's at D1. What is it? 4 o'clock? I'm not on the right time zone, so I don't even know what time it is right now. So 6 o'clock. It was 4 o'clock Pacific. That's what it is. So yeah, 6 o'clock. Call D1. I will be at Ask the Experts, and I will be around. I will be delivering 2 sessions tomorrow, talking about Azure Security Center, as well as talking about Advanced Threat Analytics. And here's a sneak peek. If you come to the Advanced Threat Analytics talk, that's going to be really simple, because a lot of the same security concepts that you saw here apply to SaaS applications. ATA does something very similar, but just for your on-prem Active Directory identities. So lots of fun, lots of cool stuff. And thank you guys very much for your time. Thank you for sticking around. And that's what I have for you.